Most cold emails feel like spam, or worse, like a robot pretending to be your friend. In this video, I'm going to show you how to flip the script and turn outbound emailing into real conversations that actually convert. Human first, signal based, built for founders. Let's get started. So for those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Mahesh. I'm a father, I'm a cricket player, I'm an entrepreneur. For the last 15 years, I've been building tech businesses in the intersection of a large industry and digital business models. My first company was in the space of training, which was Fitness Collection, which we sold to ClassPass, an American billion-dollar company. Then I was part of starting Epicenter, which is Scandinavia's largest co-working house. The way we launched Epicenter was, instead of giving people keys or cards to their office doors, we put chips in people's fingers or hands, and this was covered with great fanfare around the world, including a Netflix documentary about us. And the last 5 years, I've been working in the field of pelvic health physical therapy with my wife, and also rescuing containers and making them into kitchens and farms. So I've been dabbling with businesses the last 15 years with some successes and some failures. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned running my companies is that everything is downstream from demand generation. So if you know how to build demand, you will always survive as a business. I know no business that has went out of business because they have too many customers. And literally, the best way to have great demand generation is to pick a wonderful market. The second best thing is to have a great product, and the third best thing is to think about tactics. But as you know, I'm guilty of this mistake myself, where I start on the tactics side and then go towards the market. So literally, the best advice I can give you if you're interested in starting a business is to pick your market wisely and then figure out the tactics. A lot of entrepreneurs start on the other side, like thinking about how their website looks like, how the logo should be designed, and so on. That's of least importance. The biggest importance is the market that you pick. And this is why I believe Outbound is a great channel, because if you're into outbound emails like I am, you know that you have some advantages that no other channel offers you. The first one being it's a predictable numbers game. So if you're into ads, for instance, you can look at your funnel, you can look at how much money you're putting in, how many leads or sales you're getting on the other side. Out with no different compared to ads or like having a proper numbered funnel. The only difference is you don't need to pour a lot of money. It works without money, which is a wonderful advantage. The second thing you can do with emails is hyper targeting. So you can literally find list of people that fit your criteria and go after them with clearly defined emails. I'm going to show you how to do this step by step in the video, but hyper targeting is a big advantage. Number three is you can operate in the dark. I know when I was building Fitness Collection, we came across a competitor in Denmark, which was 8 times our size, but we had never heard of them because they were doing just B2B sales towards gyms with emails. So you can literally operate in the dark without your competition ever knowing you. The fourth one is low cost to scale, which I've already covered on. Fifth one is you can fail fast. So you can try different propositions, try different angles, and you can quickly compare what's working and how to refine your messaging. Number six is unlocking new markets. So if you're into internationalization and want to expand into new markets, instead of doing the traditional 6-month rollout plan where you spend a lot of money building a sales team, you can literally kickstart everything with outbound from where you are and then go with demand. Number seven is you can make your business sellable. So if you have a great outbound system that works on, without you having to put in a lot of time, because it's a clear systematic process, the business has more value. And that means an acquirer can take the business and extract even more value out of it in their context without you having to be part of that context, right? Which makes you free. And the last one is independent of platform rules. So if you're into LinkedIn, Facebook marketing, you know that they can change rules on a whim. But when it comes to email, rules don't change that often. There might be some new privacy or spam protection laws, but typically there's also solutions that follow along with it. So you're independent of platform rules. This makes Outbound a great channel. But still, despite it being such a wonderful channel, 97-98% of the emails that we get from cold outbound is just shit, right? It's not relevant. It's too much, too fast, too soon. And it's literally not clear what's in it for me. It's a lot about the person that's writing the email. It's very little about the person who's reading the email. And a few months ago, I started noticing that my inbox was getting more and more cramped with the shit emails. And that's when I realized, well, there's clearly outbound that's starting to grow. But how can we make outbound much more empathetic? How can we make outbound much more human first, which is really what I want to cover. So you have sleazy salesman on one side and you have empathetic sales on the other side. And more you can make your prospect achieve their dream outcome with the highest probability and with least effort and sacrifice, there's a higher chance they want to engage with you, right? So in a perfect world, if you can say that if this is your dream outcome, let's say you get $1 million, you don't have to do anything, you just have to press this button and you're going to get it. People are all going to press that button, right? Because that's literally the dream outcome with the least amount of effort and sacrifice. And there's a high probability that this company is going to help you achieve it. And when you have empathetic sales, you're really in love with your customer's problem and not your solution, compared to sleazy sales, where you're in love with your solution, you just want to push it in people's into people's mouths, irrespective of where they are, right? So this is what I'm calling human first outbound emails, which has 3 components to it. It has the right time, So you're really engineering serendipity. It has the perfect message that this person wants to hear. It resonates very well. And there's a clear next step on offer that's a micro win that's easy for that person to take based on where they are. So it's right time, perfect message, and a clear next step, right? So let's break this down. What is right time? So right time for me is why now? Why are you reaching out to this person now? And this could be for multiple reasons. You can see some of these examples on the right-hand side on your screen. But really, the biggest trigger of why now from 2024's email survey was job change. So if somebody switched their jobs and you reach out to them within the first 90 or 100 days, there's a very high chance they're going to engage with the email if it's relevant for them, because they literally want to make a bigger impact in the new job than what they've tried in the past, right? So that's been one of a very well-used trigger. The second is hiring or recruitment. So when a company is recruiting, they're already investing in a resource or in resources, which means they've already made a decision, they've already created a strategy. So you don't have to come and convince them to create a lot of this work because it's already been done. You just have to come in with the right message that fits what they're trying to do. Funding is yet another clear milestone. So you can, if a company got funded recently, the founder or the management team is in a whole new mode to make use of that money. You can also flip the script and say, if the company has not been funded in a while, it could also mean that they're struggling and they might need other kinds of help, right? Maybe they need help streamlining their costs. Maybe they need help improving their margins and so on. Number four is product launches. So I love Product Hunt here, for instance. So if you can scrape Product Hunt, look at the top most voted products from the last 6 months and see where the traffic is, the last 6 months. You can see trends, right? You can see whether the trend kept going up or if the trend went down. And that's a great signal to use. I'm going to show you how to use these signals in the next part of the video. But why now is you need to ask yourself, where is the prospect that you're trying to reach out to in this scale of, compared to what you want to sell, and how do you know that this person is ready for your category or ready for your product or service, right? And more you have clarity around why now, the better your message is going to resonate. So the way I look at my leads list is starting with Apollo. So Apollo is a wonderful tool. If you've not used it, I'm going to leave a link here below in this description to try Apollo. It's the world's largest company database. And here you can use filters like industry, obviously, industry and keywords, locations, but you can also use things like funding. You can use things like revenue. You can use things like press releases and so on. So when you start using these signals just by getting a better list quality from Apollo, you come a long way. My view on running a campaign with cold outbound is to segment each list to at least have 3,000 emails, because number one, not all of those emails are verified. So you want to make sure that, maybe 90% of them are verified, which is a pretty good number. So if you have at least 3,000 emails, it means that there's a sizable list size that you can build a test campaign on. If you have anything below that, you don't get enough statistically significant data to know how your messaging is working, right? So I would say at least have 3,000 emails in your Apollo leads list, and you can get these leads lists by going to Apollo, working with the filters, and then putting them into Apify. And Apify is the world's largest scraping database, where you can literally get all the emails, all the information, download it, and then put that into your CRM. Again, I'm going to walk you through how I do it, but I just quickly introducing how the scenes behind it. So the second thing you want to answer is why me? And this is an important part of your outreach. So why is this lead being targeted? And the way I try to do it is to build a point of view. A point of view is something that is happening in the person's life, right? And then observe what that means by asking questions like, what does this mean? So what, why, how? And you can get the AI to do this, obviously, and I'm going to show you. And then you're going to draw insights out of that. And then you're going to connect the dots based on what's going on. So you're going to do this in 3 dimensions. The first one is the company point of view. The company point of view is getting their mission, getting case studies, getting founder stories, for instance. So when you look at founder stories, if you're going after smaller size companies and the founder is still active, appealing to the founder story is pretty powerful, because a lot of small companies work with that a lot. Same with case studies. If you're a small company and you literally know all your first 20 customers by name, by hand, by heart, because they made you survive. So quoting case studies is a great ego trip. The second thing you're going to do is to look at person point of view. A person point of view is where you're looking at, okay, do I have common connections with this person? Are we in common groups together? And what are this person's needs, desires, outcomes, and fears, right? And the way I try to do it is to work with LinkedIn. And then I use Perplexity, which is a great tool to triangulate all this data and bring it into one place. And again, I'm going to show you, but you can literally get a lot more intelligence about the person, including their psychological needs and desires, because they speak about it in LinkedIn or in whatever social media that is relevant for your business, right? They speak a lot about how they're feeling or what's going on. So you just have to find a way to get that data and summarize it and map it to what you're trying to do. And the last thing is industry point of view. And industry point of view is things like competitors, lingo, like if it's a lawyer, they're going to use clients. If it's a healthcare company, they're going to use patients, right? So what's the lingo that they're using and how is it growing? What is the compounded annual growth rate? What's the new money coming in? Where is the noise seem to be, right? And when you know the industry point of view, you know the person point of view, and you know the company point of view, you can start building a really good prompt with with I use NA10 for all of this. You can start building a really good prompt that has the complete point of view inbuilt, so you start writing much better sounding personalized emails. So this is what I call enrichment for real, where you're connecting the dots, building a holistic view, and building empathy for who your prospect is and what they're trying to achieve, and how you are that perfect bridge to get them from A to B. So the third point that makes a human first outbound, apart from timing and message, is what then. So you've got me with personalization. You know who I am. You know where I'm trying to go. So how do I go there? And that's the CTA. And here, the things that I've seen work is to give outsized value and not to have one CTA size that fits all. So if a prospect is really close to making a decision based on the models that you've built and the point of views you've done, maybe asking for a call is a great CTA. But if they're not, maybe you should not be asking for a CTA. Maybe you should give them a free audit. Maybe you should give them a free assessment. Maybe you should say, I have a personal video that helps you solve this problem. Maybe there's a webinar that you invite them to. So the CTAs need to be adapted based on where the person is, and it is not a one size fits all. So I've walked you through what makes a human first outbound. Let's look at how to write these emails, and then I'll walk you through step by step how to build this so you have the entire use case. You will also find my complete JSON files in the link below. It's completely free of charge. You can just download it and take it. You can donate if you want. It's on Gumroad, but you can use it, and it's yours, and it has step-by-step instructions on how to use it. All right, so how do you write these emails? You want to really think about your core offers. Your core offers can be largely, summarized into: are you saving time? Are you saving money? Are you making money? Are you raising status? Are you helping them live longer? And obviously, yours is going to be a subset of one of these, but you're going to pick one theme for one campaign and go through that. And then the next campaign can have a completely different value proposition, right? So if you start with the saving time angle, and that's your 4 emails, the first main email and 3 follow-up emails, the second campaign can be making money campaign, where again, you have the first email about making money and the next 3 emails about the follow-up about making money in different angles, right? And you're always trying to answer, so what? And so if you can save me time, what does that mean? So for instance, if you're targeting people on weight loss and you're targeting dads over 40, you can say if you lose weight, you can spend, you're not only going to look better, maybe your wife is going to love you more, or your partner is going to like you more, but you can also spend more time with your kids and have more energy, right? So that's the so what angle. So you're making the benefit very emotionally resonant, so they understand not just the abstract concept of saving time, but what that means, right? And you're going to change value proposition across the different email campaigns. So one might land, so you test others. And you're always looking at ways to object handle. So as humans, when we encounter something new and unknown, the first reaction we have is some kind of a guard up. So you want to remove those guardrails. And the way you do that is to, very gently object handle. So if you're saying that I'm going to help you lose weight, but the first objection is like, I've tried this many times, why is this going to be different? And then you're going to say, I offer the complete ecosystem of nutrition, a training plan, personalized coaching, and accountability all in one, right? So then you've already handled the objection of, it's never worked for me in the past. So you're looking at either social proof or objection handling in simple 1 or 2 sentences, or as your PS, so people understand that there is some substance to how you're approaching and wanting to help them. So the way I look at the emails is, the first email is a high intent direct offer. So you're starting with why this person, why now. That's what we've covered in the first 2 points. Then it's your value prop, which is 1 to 2 lines focus on your one core benefit. Don't try to mix too many benefits. Social proof or objection handling, and a call to action, right? And it's a clear but non-demanding call to action is what I see work. The second email, which is the follow-up one, is you're adding context to first email, because bear in mind that the second email is added to the first email's thread, which means people are going to scan down, up and down. So things that you've missed in the first email, you can add to the second email. So again, more proof, more case studies, and so on. Third email is you're basically looking at a lower friction CTA. So if you ask for a call in the first two, maybe the third one is more like, hey, I have a personal video. Do you want me to send it? Or I have a free event coming up. Do you want to join? So you're lowering the friction of the CTA because they might be interested in what you're offering, but they might not be interested in doing a 30-minute call with you, right? So you're looking at a lower friction CTA. And you're, again, one of the things I do in my email 3 or follow-up 2 is to flip the switch and look at a completely different angle. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So an example would be, if you've been talking about saving time from a positive point of view, what you can do is to talk about saving time from a negative point of view, saying, if you keep continuing this, or if you don't do any action about this topic, how is this going to affect you, right? So how would competitors look at this? Because they're all seeming to go ahead compared to you if you're not going to take these steps, right? And you want to do it in a way that's not fear-mongering. You want to do it in a way that feels gentle but clear, that cost of inaction is higher, or is as high, if not higher, than cost of action, right? Because that's the inertia people have. And you're asking for interest without asking for commitment, right? That's literally the third follow-up. And the last thing I send is a breakup email, which is completely non-dramatic. And my simple always ask is, do you have anybody else in your team that I can speak to? Because it's clear to me that you're busy. I assume this is still an important topic for you. Okay, let me show you some examples. But the principles of copywriting that I use is, because with copywriting, it's so subjective. You can literally find truth on both sides. You can say somebody that says, write longer emails, somebody that says, write only 75-word emails. You can say somebody that says, never brag too much, somebody that says, never write about personal things in the email, somebody that does exactly the opposite. So the answer is, I don't know what works for your niche. So you need to A/B test. But the principles I use is plus, plus, minus, minus, self, friends, and enemies. So plus, plus is your value proposition and the positives that it can create. So if you're into fitness, again, as an example, you would say, think about yourself 3 sizes lower. Think about yourself with more energy. The minus would be, if you have a lot of weight, it's not going to get easier as you get older. You're going to have more pains. You're going to have more health issues, right? That's the minus, which is the cost of inaction. Then you can use the lens of self, which is, can you imagine yourself, in sizes three times lower? Or can you imagine when your friend meets you for the first time, or your wife meets you for after a long time and sees you 15 kilos shorter, right? Or 15 kilos less compared to what you are today. Or enemies, which is like, in this case, weight loss is not a good example, but in case of B2B, it would say, it seems like your competitors are entering these markets and they seem to be going faster. How are you looking upon it, right? That's the enemy angle. So plus is the positive, minus is the negative. Self is your own lens of what this means. Friends is your people around you. It could be your management team, your team members, your colleagues, your industry peers. And enemies is your competition and people that you're trying to get ahead of, right? So an example is, I'm going to show you an example here. and something I've not talked about so far is the subject line. And subject line is the most important part of your email. And I've not spoken about it because I think subject line should be the most personalized text that you're ever sending, where only the person that's opening it should understand. So here's an example. It says WFPB quiz plus client acquisition. So this lady, Elena, seems to have a quiz called WFPB, which if you're not Elena, you'd probably not understand, right? And this is an AI-generated first 2 sentence, which is, I was listening to your Health Forward podcast recently and was impressed by how you're supporting women on their journey to better health, especially those dealing with endo and infertility challenges. This is very, very personal. As a mom of 2 who's built a coaching practice, I'm curious, have you found a way to scale your impact beyond one-on-one sessions while still maintaining that personal connection that makes your approach so valuable? So these are the first 2 sentences that the AI writes, which is personalized. And then I really recommend you to have the rest of the email hard-coded to begin with. You don't want the AI to write the whole email because it can go wrong. What I try to do is to start a campaign with just the first bit AI personalized and everything else hard-coded. And once I start seeing the data, I take exactly the same campaign, and then I make the last bit AI generated and the middle bit hard-coded. Right, so the last bit could be the CTA, and this is where you could use the timing angles to look at how you can build adaptive CTAs. So here's an example. It says, you didn't become a coach to spend hours creating content and chasing leads. We can build a system that does it for you. Would you be open to a quick chat to see how the strategy works? So this seems to be like the most personalized angle to segue into the CTA for this person, right? Or our recent campaign for a 10 million euro SaaS company generated 54% opens and 22% reply rates. Just one campaign improving their MRR by 25%. If you'd like to explore how this could work specifically for your company's technology, I'd be happy to share a few tailored ideas in a call. So this is an AI-generated closing. What I suggest, as I said, is to start with the AI-generated opening, keep the rest the same, and then once you start seeing data, take exactly the same campaign, duplicate it, new leads, and then do AI-generated closing and see if you get better reply rates, and that's a great way to A/B test. Some tips is Never forget, never skip the concept of warming up domains, which is 30 emails per day or inbox at least. So if you're sending more than 30 emails per day, be careful. Probably not send more than 50. And I would never send emails without warming up the domains. That takes about 3 weeks. And as I mentioned, let AI write just the first two sentences. You hardcode the rest. And volume matters. So if you don't do at least 3,000 emails in a campaign, you're not going to get enough. And A/B testing matters a lot. So spend time really thinking about A/B testing the largest leverage variables. And that is not how you position your CTA. That's the last of the leverages you should take. That is the highest leverage is your subject line. The next highest leverage is your first line value prop. The overall highest leverage is your leads list. Make sure you have a great leads list and you filtered it and segmented it and done the point of views, because that's the highest leverage you can do. Then it's the subject line, then it's the first lines, then it's the value prop and how you frame it, and then it's the CTA, right? So make sure you have your priorities clear on how you're A/B testing. And finally, the last 2 points I want to say when it comes to cold email is that it's a patience game, and circumstances of people change. So just because they don't reply today doesn't mean they're not relevant 3 months from now. And cold email is a compounding game, which means that more you do, the person that you reached out to 8 months ago might be active all of a sudden, and all of a sudden that campaign is doing much better than what you had initially thought of, right? So it's a compounding game. You need to keep at it. You need to try different campaigns, and you need to work with leads list all the time. The last thing before I show you the actual workflow step by step is outbound right for you? And if you're just starting up, outbound might not be right for you. I'd rather start by selling to warm friends and get an idea of how you're delivering value, pricing it, and then getting into outbound, because outbound is the least amount of trust and you have very limited amount of time to prove yourself. So if you've not done any business before or you're just getting started, outbound might be a very hard channel for you to start. If you're not clear on your niche, don't do outbound. If you don't have a sizable market of at least, your TAM is at least 30,000-40,000 people, don't do outbound. If you're a small restaurant doing cute things in your little neighborhood, maybe outbound is not for you. So you know how to deliver value and you know how to communicate that, right? So these are things that you need to have as basics before you get started with outbound. I have a free outbound assessment. So if you're not sure if outbound is for you, take this assessment. It's about 20 questions, and you'll get clarity on how's your go-to-market, how's your niche positioning, how's your signaling, how's your messaging, and you also get resources on how to get started. Okay. So now I'll see you in the next part of the video where I walk you through step by step of what I just showed you of how to get right timing, right messaging, and making sure that it sounds human. I'll see you there. All right. So let's get started on the demo part of how to run human first outbound. The first step to get started is to go to Apollo.io. Apollo.io is the world's largest database of people and companies. It has hundreds of millions of records. The first place to start is segmenting who you're reaching out to. And if you're in a business where you say everybody is your target group, I really urge you to think about it as campaigns. So a first campaign could be, I'm going to reach out only to, making this up, airport authorities around Europe. People that run airports, those are the people that I'm going to focus on. Okay, so for instance, or I'm going to focus only on United States, but people only located in the West Coast and not on the East Coast, right? In this case, that's what I'm doing here. So you can see that I'm excluding people in these states that are not, or excluding people that are on the West Coast and not on the East Coast. I'm excluding by number of employees. I'm looking at it by industry and keywords. And then you can also look at revenue. You can look at funding. You can look at job posting. You can look at website visitors. And these are great first level filters. I'm going to show you how you can filter even further. So you're really getting people at the right time. But the first level filtering is very important. And here in Apollo, you have something called more filters. And this is pretty good too, where you can look at things like SIC codes if you're working in more traditional industry, founded year, if you're targeting like family-run businesses from the last 50, 100 years. So you can really find niches of campaigns to run. And as I mentioned, you need to have at least 3,000 emails to make sense. And you can see the number over here. So here in this case, I have 9,684 emails, which is a pretty good start, right? Somewhere around 10,000 is a great campaign to begin with. I'd probably divide it into A/B campaigns, so I'd have 5,000 each, and I'd run 2 different value propositions as test. And then based on which ones worked, I would then expand the leads list and go after the ones that didn't win that campaign and go after them with a new value proposition, right? So as I mentioned, you can recycle your leads. They're not dead if you've used them once, okay? So this is the first place I would start. And what I do is to take this URL on the top of Apollo, and I come to AP5. AP5 is the world's largest marketplace of scrapers. If you're into any kind of scraping, whether it's Google Maps, Instagram, websites, LinkedIn, Pinterest, whatever you want to use, whatever you want to scrape that there is enough people using it, you'll find it on AP5. It's ap5.com. It gets a little expensive. As you can see, I'm spending about $165 a month right now for just doing very basic scraping, but obviously it's worth it because it saves you a lot of time. So there's a scraper here called Apollo Lead Scraper, and it's $45 a month. And over here, you need to log in with your email and password. You need to put in your cookie. You can do that. You can put in your cookies by installing a Chrome extension, and you have a cookie editor, which you simply copy paste the code. So over here, I come here, I click on the cookie extension over here, and I get a code, which is here. I export it as a JSON, and then I put it in here, right, as JSON or manual. Okay, and once I do that, I give the URL from Apollo, where I've created all my filters, and I take that and I put that in here, which is over here in the search URL. Okay, so that's where I put in my actual URL of leads I'm filtering. In this case, I'm going only after 500, but obviously if you have 10,000, you can get them all. And then you click on start, and what happens after you do that is you get a CSV file. Obviously, you can automate this too. I'm not automating it because I want to make sure that the quality of the leads list is really good. So over here, let's see that I'm using a lot of LinkedIn scraping as well, which you need to be careful about because they can ban you. But if you use proxies, you'll be fine. So if you look at this Apollo scraper over here, it runs. It takes a pretty long time actually. So this one took about 17 minutes for 500 results and costed me not much, 8 cents. And then once I click on that, I can scroll down and I can export the result. And over here, you can see that I get a CSV or a JSON. I usually get it as a CSV. And what I do once I get it as a CSV is I put it into my ad table. My ad table is my CRM where I have all my data. So you can get all this into your ad table. So it's your first name, last name, phone number, email address, title, time at company, company name, industry, location, LinkedIn person, LinkedIn company website. And all the other fields that you see are my automation fields. So for me, the automation starts when I change the status, and then it sort of runs through from left to right and outputs a clean company name, because you don't want a company name that has like PLC on it. You just want it to sound like a human. And then it gives me like industry signals, the person signals, when was it enriched, and the final email. So you can see that it comes up here, and then it gives me all the follow-ups as well. And then once I click on this final send and put in my instantly campaign ID, the email is sent. Okay, but let me, before going too far ahead into how the entire process works, the first step is to get the leads list from Apollo, use API, download it, put that into ad table, and structure your CRM. If your CRM is not clear and structured, you'll have a lot of issues later on. So I really recommend you to structure your CRM. I think the bare minimum is obviously your name, first name, last name, email, title, their LinkedIn, their website, things around, if they have Instagram and things like that, if you're going after more sort of personal marketing and then if you can find other sources of data and it's structured, I'd probably put it as an Airtable column. Otherwise, I'd put it in an LLM and get it out in a separate column, and I'm going to show you how. But just really think about structuring your database, because if this goes wrong, you're going to have issues scaling further on. And as you know, cold email works only when you start scaling, right? So really make sure that you have the structures for scaling. All right, so once you've done that, the second step is to go into NA10. NA10 is like a glorified make, but it's much more modular, much more robust, and a fantastic tool. I love it because I find it, once you get past the learning curve, which took me like a week of really frustrated work, I could really get over it pretty fast. And once I got over it, I could really start flexing a lot of NA10 muscle, which is fantastic. So in this case, the entire workflow starts with a webhook. A webhook is a connection between two different services, and I'm connecting my NA10 with my ad table. So the way I connect my NA10 and my ad table is to go into automations over here in my ad table, and I have a little script that I run. So if you want the script, ping me in the comments and I'll send it to you. So, or you can ask ChatGPT. And the whole trigger is when a contact matches, the status and this lead qualification is ticked, right? And when that happens, this automation automatically starts. I'm going to show this to you in a second. And then you run a script, and in this script, you have the webhook URL. The webhook URL this is the one that connects the two different services. It connects the ad table data with your NA10. Okay, so when I take a tick box and change the status to yet to be enriched, which I'm going to show here in a sec. So let's see. So I'm going to take this to yet to be enriched, and then I'm going to tick this. What happens behind the scenes is that the automation starts. Okay, now let's come back to the automation. The first node is the Airtable node, which is where your database is. So once you have the webhook set up, every time there's a new lead that comes in that matches the criteria, it gets pushed into NA10 and gets pushed into your ad table. And over here, you can see that this person's data is all is all pushed in from Airtable over here. And then the first thing I do is to verify is the leads matching our criteria. And in this case, in this campaign, we're just focusing on UK, Canada, and Poland. And if yes, we continue. If no, we don't, right? Because this is the nature of that campaign. And then the first thing we do to build a company point of view is the LinkedIn company scraper. And this is simply a get call, which means that, you just go to NA10 and add a HTTP request. And if you add one second, I'm just going to move this here. If you add a HTTP request over here, HTTP, and HTTP basically is like visiting the website on your behalf. So, and there are different ways to do that, and different types of scraping or different types of requests that happens. And a GET request is the most simplest form of that request. And if you click on GET and then put in the LinkedIn URL over there, you're all set to go. I'm just going to delete it so nothing happens over here. Perfect. So the GET request takes the data from Airtable of the company's LinkedIn over here. And the way I do that is to simply take this LinkedIn company URL and drag it here, right? It's literally drag and drop. And then boom, it's green. And if it's green, it means it's working, right? So once I do that, I start getting data. But now bear in mind, when you scrape LinkedIn company data, sometimes it's a hit or a miss. A lot of companies are not that active. And even if it's a hit, it has a lot of shit in it. So you want to clean it up because you don't want to waste tokens in your LLM. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm cleaning it up. Okay. And once I clean it up, then I put this into my LLM and I say, give me the company point of view. I'm going to also make sure you have my prompt shells in the description here. So you can just literally copy paste these prompts and change the context and you're ready to go, because I've tested a lot of different types of prompts and I find these prompts really work and give really good data. Okay. So this is what I prompt saying, based on the answers, tell me a certain things about this company, right? And then if there's a fit that that the company passes, then it goes further. Otherwise, we don't write an email to them. And then we look at the LinkedIn post and see what can we find about it. Then I do the same with the person's LinkedIn. So I've analyzed the company, I've analyzed everything from their LinkedIn, from their website, and now I'm analyzing, the lead, the person itself. And once I do that, I'm going to put that again in code, so I clean it up. And then this is where the magic happens. I put this into Perplexity. Perplexity is where I get a lot of triangulated signals. I get a beautiful citation. I get really nice content that is well written, really summarized, and I get lots of data that I don't find otherwise. And then I put that in a code, so I clean it up, and then I update the lead intel. So lead intel is a column I have in my Airtable where I keep updating my intelligence about this person as and when I run these campaigns, because as I said, a person's context changes, and if a person's context change and you can keep updating it, can you imagine the type of emails you can start writing? It becomes really personalized because you're starting to follow the person's person over time. And that's why I have a column in my Airtable for lead intel, and I have it hard-coded with date, so I know that this date is when I got this intel, and I can really start comparing notes. Now, once I do that, I have a really clear prompt based on the copywriting style I spoke about in my first part of the email, first part of this presentation, and I'm just putting that into a clear prompt. And this prompt is, just following a certain type of copywriting that works for this niche. As I mentioned, copywriting is not a one-size-fits-all, so you want to really A/B test. This is working for this niche so far, so we'll see how long that lasts. And then I put this into Claude. Claude is my preferred partner for writing content because it doesn't hallucinate. You can control the temperature, and it writes pretty good content that is much more human-sounding than GPT. GPT comes up with like weird words that make sense, but if you start thinking about it, it doesn't make sense, And then I update this in Airtable. So let me run this node. And once I update this in Airtable, the data is passed and it's stored. And once I store that, then again, I do follow-ups for the prompts for the follow-ups, where I'm following up, writing the follow-up emails, the 3 follow-up emails, which is based on a certain type of prompting, again, that I've spoken about in the first part of the video, where the first follow-up, you're completing the things that are missing from the main follow-up email. The second follow-up email is usually the minus side, or the cost of inaction side, or the competitor side. And the last follow-up email is a breakup email, which is basically saying, is there anybody else in your company that I can speak to? While I also lower the CTA, so it feels a little bit more easier. And then I put this all in Airtable, right? So let's look at some outputs together. So this person we ticked and said yet to be enriched, and now it's cold qualified. Let's see what we got on this side. So the email that I'm using, as I said, is the subject is basically something that's very specific for this person. So it seems that this person's working on this project. So it says, hi, Alex, BAM's work on the Silvertown Tunnel caught my attention. It's exactly the type of complex infrastructure project where surveys often become the information bottleneck between field teams and project managers. Do you ever feel like you're firefighting when field teams need immediate access to survey data or as-built verification? That's pretty good because it sort of captures the empathy, right? And then this is the hard-coded bit. I represent InfraKit, a European leader in helping infrastructure projects, blah, blah, blah. So this is hard-coded bit, and the last bit is then based on the person's role. This is again dynamic from the AI. And yeah, so far so good. So then if I look at the follow-ups, it looks like this. I imagine the Silver Tower project has a surveying team stretched thin, okay? And then it gives you the value proposition that it didn't complete, which is 30 to 40% of their time. And then it sort of reintroduces the brand again with InfraKit and what the value proposition again is. And then this is the so what angle, and then some social proof and a question, right? Because already I've reduced the CTA from do you want to call to are you the right person? And then there's a PS, which is we have a free webinar coming up. And then let's go further. Here is follow-up number 2. And here it's a little bit more focused on, the competition side. So lead infrastructure builders are already doing this. Are you not doing this? That's the implied meaning here. And InfraKit centralizes, again, this is the value proposition that's hard-coded. Then the CTA is now I have a free audit. Would this work for you? And then there's already a PS hinting if you're not the right person, please help me out, right? And then the last email over here is, hi Alex, this is my final note. This is the breakup email. I'm unsure if I've reached the right person. Would you mind directing me to the right person? Again, it still feels pretty personalized because you're using the projects that this person's working on, and it's just not like a random company name or a title, right? So it's still personalized. I think it's still personalized enough. I'll tell you how this particular campaign performs, but I still think it's personalized enough to make it work. Now, once I'm happy with the output, which I am in this case, what I do is I go all the way to the right. I take my instantly campaign ID, which is where I send my emails. So let me show you. So I've just set up a test campaign over here. And here on the top, you can see there's the campaign ID. So you'd copy that. And then what I do is to have a workflow where I save my campaign ID in my N10 node. So when I click on that final send tick box, the email is sent. So let me show that to you. So over here, I have a workflow called send over here, which basically has 5 nodes. It looks at whether certain conditions are right in my table, which is that there is an email. You want to make sure that email is filled. There are follow-up emails. And once that is done, I'm sending the email via instantly, which is again, it's just a post request with HTTP, and you're getting your API file, you're getting your API key, and you're sending the data using a JSON. Okay, so it's very straightforward. And then I'm logging this back in my table, including the campaign data, which is the number of people that have replied, when was the last email sent, and so on. So you have an idea of whether your emails are landing in spam or whether your emails are getting looked at, right? So what I need to do to actually send this campaign is I need to simply go take this ID down, and then I need to click this tick box, because then it looks at whether there's a tick box that is ticked here, which is the final send, whether there are emails, and whether there's a campaign ID. And the way I do that is to connect it again through automations in Airtable, which is the final sending of campaign automation. The code is exactly the same. The only difference is when the record matches conditions. That is different compared to the first automation, where the record matches conditions is just whether it needs to be enriched or not. So that's the only difference. The code is exactly the same. The webhook URL is obviously different because you're calling a different webhook over here, and you can get the webhook URL over here, right, under production URL. So you simply copy this and put that back in Airtable in the code node. So once I do that, let me just show you what happens in instantly. So I think I put in like 100 leads or something as a test campaign over here. So now I have 134. And when I refresh it, I think this number should change because we just add like 5 or 6 more into that leads list. So this is literally it. You just tick a couple of boxes, you get the data because you've prompted it really well. You've really done the point of view stuff. And then you have, everything ready to be sent. So now you have like 6 more, which makes it to 140. So I can keep just doing this and instantly keeps managing the sending. And I've made sure that all the domains I use in instantly are warmed up, and they have a high domain reputation. If your email reply rates are less than 20, I would assume a couple of things. Either your email is not performing well at all because it's not good structure, good copy, not the right person, or you're landing in spam. And I don't usually track open rates because open rates with Apple's new updates have become harder to, it's become much more false positives. So I don't track open rates, so I just make it disabled. But if you track open rates, if you're getting anything below 50 to 60% open rates, it most likely means your subject lines are bad or you're landing in spam, right? And if you're landing in spam, stop your campaigns, get a new domain, warm it up with Instantly, and get started. Instantly has wonderful guides on how to do it. If you need help, just drop me a line. I'll make a video about how to just do warming up of domains and how to set up emails and how I buy domains with GoDaddy and email addresses. So I'll make a separate video on that. But basically, you want to make sure that you're warming up your domains and you're not getting stuck in the spam filter. Okay. So to summarize, I really hope you understood the power of human first outbound. Human first outbound has three things going for it. It's the right time. So a human first outbound has the right time that you're targeting the person, the perfect message, and the perfect next step. And you can literally do this by adding nodes in N8N. If everything that I showed you felt very complicated, I have like a starter kit. Again, you'll find it in the Gumroad link below. And the starter kit has like 8 or 9 nodes, and it does enough enrichment to feel personalized enough. It is not the most amazing personalized email, but it doesn't have to be if you're just getting started. It's better to have one line that's personalized than nothing personalized at all. And it's better to have good personalization than bad personalization, right? So it's better to be no personalized than bad personalized, and it's better to be good personalized if you have no other choice but to be not personalized, right? So I'd take good personalized any day. And I would at least just start with very simple basic enrichment with LinkedIn or with their website, and just quoting like a case study back or a customer name back is fantastic personalization to begin with. So if you're doing sleazy, cold outbound, go into empathetic, warm, human first outbound, because the reply rates are going to skyrocket. My reply rates are getting better and better for every node that I add in terms of AI and in terms of like prompting it better. So I really believe in personalized human first outbound email, and I hope you found this guide useful. Our approach to human first outbound here at North Star is to truly understand who your customers are, what is the outcome that they're trying to achieve, and really layer the steps to help them get there, and do it in such good copy with the frameworks I've mentioned that it feels like a no-brainer for them to take the next step. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. If you did, like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in our ecosystem soon. Take care.